They shoved me toward the edge of an open grave at a funeral that wasn't even supposed to include me. I remember the sound first. Gasps slicing through the quiet, the scrape of shoes on stone, the way my heart slammed so hard it felt louder than the prayers. And I remember thinking in that split second before everything went wrong, wow, this is really how they see me. Disposable, easy to erase, my name is Lena Brooks. At least that's the name I grew up with. And for most of my life I was invisible by design. Before all of that, before the grave, before the lawyers and the cameras and the headlines, I was just tired. Not sleepy, tired. Life tired. The kind that settles into your shoulders and never really leaves. I was 24, living in a cramped one-bedroom on the south side of Cleveland, working 3 jobs and still counting coins at the grocery store. Mornings started at 5 with burnt coffee and a uniform that never quite came clean. I waited tables at a diner near the freeway, smiling at people who didn't see me taking orders, wiping counters, pocketing tips that disappeared into bills before I even got home. By afternoon, I was restocking shelves at a discount store, hauling boxes heavier than they looked. My hands always smelling like cardboard and dust. Nights were for cleaning offices downtown, empty hallways, and flickering lights mopping floors under motivational posters about success I couldn't relate to. I'd get home close to midnight, collapse on my bed, and do it all again. 7 days a week, no backup plan, no one to call if something went wrong. My apartment wasn't much. Peeling paint, a heater that rattled like it might explode, and neighbors I never learned the names of. Dinner was usually instant noodles or toast. I had shoes with worn-out soles I patched with tape. This wasn't temporary, not in my mind. This was just life. It wasn't always like that. I remembered my mom Carol with a clarity that hurt sometimes. She laughed loudly, hugged tightly, and somehow made even our worst days feel survivable. She worked as a home health aide, long hours, low pay, but she came home smiling. When I was 9, she got sick. Cancer. Fast and unforgiving. In the hospital near the end, she held my hand and told me something I didn't understand at the time. She said, "Your father loved you in his own way. He just didn't know how to be brave." I wanted answers. I asked questions. She smiled, tired and sad, and told me I'd understand one day. She passed away a week later. After that, everything unraveled. I went into foster care. Different houses, different rules, different versions of myself trying to fit in. Some people were kind. Others weren't. You learn quickly not to expect much. When I turned 18, the system let go. A trash bag of clothes, a bus pass, and a quiet reminder that I was on my own now. I learned to survive because there wasn't another option. So, when a man in a dark suit showed up outside my apartment one afternoon, I assumed he was lost. The car alone didn't belong on my street. Black, polished, expensive in a way I only saw on TV. He asked for me by name. Said he was an attorney. Said his client, a man named Richard Hale, had passed away. Then he paused, looked at me carefully, and said, "He was your biological father." The world tilted. I laughed at first, a short, sharp sound that didn't match how I felt. I told him he had the wrong person. He didn't. He handed me an envelope and a garment bag and said the funeral was the next day at a private estate outside the city. He suggested I attend. Alone. That night, I didn't sleep. Anger came first. Hot, unfair anger. If this man was my father, where had he been when I was hungry, scared, exhausted? Where was he when my mom died? Why show up now through a stranger when it was too late to ask him anything? But beneath that anger was curiosity. And something else. A quiet hope I didn't want to admit was still alive. The estate looked like another world. Gates, trees trimmed into perfect shapes, a house that felt more like a museum than a home. Inside, everything whispered money. The people there wore black clothes that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I felt like an intruder. That's when I saw them, his family. The woman standing at the front, elegant, sharp-eyed, perfectly composed. His wife. Her gaze landed on me and hardened instantly. Next to her were 2 grown children, well-dressed, bored, already acting like the day was an inconvenience. They knew exactly who I was. I could tell by the way they looked at me like I was something unpleasant that had wandered in. The wife approached me, heels clicking on marble. She didn't lower her voice. So she said, eyes cold, "You're the girl from the affair." The words hit harder than I expected. I tried to explain that I was invited, that I just wanted to say goodbye. She laughed. Not loud, not messy, just enough to sting. Her son stepped closer, smirking, and told me this was a family matter. Her daughter pulled out her phone, filming, smiling like this was entertainment. I should have left. Every part of me knew that. But I stayed. I sat in the back during the service listening to stories about a man I didn't recognize, a devoted husband, a brilliant businessman, a loving father. No one mentioned me. No one mentioned my mother. After the service, people gathered near the burial site. I stayed back watching. When most of them drifted away, I stepped closer. I don't know why. Maybe I needed proof he was real. I whispered something I didn't plan. "I wish I'd known you." That's when she pushed me. Hard. No hesitation. My foot caught the edge, and suddenly there was nothing beneath me. I fell into the open grave, dirt in my mouth, pain shooting through my side. I heard people shouting. Someone screamed. I looked up and saw her standing over me, smiling like she'd just fixed a mistake. They pulled me out. She claimed it was an accident. Said I tripped. People filmed. No one argued. Then the lawyer stepped forward and announced the will reading. 5 minutes, mandatory. They walked into the library like royalty, talking about properties, vacations, investments. I sat quietly at the far end, my dress stained with dirt, my hands shaking. The lawyer began to read. The wife received a modest sum and one property. Her confidence cracked. The son received money and a small business. He protested. The daughter received jewelry and cash. She scoffed. Then the lawyer said my name. He left me the majority ownership of the company. The real estate holdings, the investments, the house, everything else. Total value, just over $6 billion. The room erupted, shouting. Accusations. The wife lunged for the documents. The lawyer calmly explained the will was solid, updated, witnessed. Then he read a letter from my father. In it, he admitted his fear, his cowardice. He said he loved my mother, that he watched me grow up from a distance, that he knew he failed me. He wrote that his other children grew up with comfort but learned nothing, that I grew up with nothing and learned everything, that I was the only one he trusted with what he built. I didn't cry then. I couldn't. I just sat there numb. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. I moved into a house that didn't feel like mine. I learned how the business worked. I discovered the wife had been stealing money for years. The son had been running parts of the company into the ground. The daughter treated corporate accounts like personal credit cards. I pressed charges, not out of revenge, out of responsibility. I fired my half-brother in his first board meeting. Calmly, publicly. I watched him realize too late that the rules had changed. Months later, the wife showed up asking for help. I offered her a plea deal instead. She took it. The daughter lost everything online after footage of the funeral surfaced. Later, she asked me for a job. I gave her one. Entry level. No shortcuts. A year after the funeral, I stood on a stage at a charity event I funded talking about access opportunity and second chances. I talked about how people tried to bury me and how they accidentally planted me instead. I still visit the grave, not out of anger, out of closure. So here's my question for you. If someone hurts you, really hurts you, do they deserve forgiveness or consequences? And if you suddenly held all the power, would you use it to punish or to build something better? Drop your thoughts below. I read every comment.